Podcast. Powered by Sports Interaction. Wanna bet?
The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Well, a familiar face, and he's still tweeting. Chris Johnston. It's a busy time of year.
It is a busy time of year.
It's crazy.
I'm going to be obnoxiously on my phone during this.
Are you?
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
It's kind of like they call it Black Monday in the NFL when all the coaches get fired. It feels like a little bit of a Black Friday kind of vibe in here.
Interesting. You talk about... you talked about it yesterday on the CJ show, and today we find out, like right before the show starts, that the Pittsburgh Penguins have let go of, among the names, Brian Burke and Ron Hextall, which are kind of the two key names that you need to know. And, it's president, that's general manager. This is a team without direction. The Vancouver Canucks have got to be so mad that they can't offload JT Miller's contract so easily this offseason.
You never know.
But one thing you did say is...
I don't know. I'm hearing it's going to happen.
We're hearing rumbling.
No, I don't know. One
thing you were talking about is, does Fenway Sports Group make a big play for Kyle Dubas? Should he become available? And this is one of the questions I've been meaning to ask you all season, CJ, and that's why I'm so excited to have you on. Where do the Leafs stand with that? This is a really good-looking team going into the playoffs, and he's on an expiring deal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Nobody's talking about it. It's not really happening. It really hasn't been a part of the discourse in the media.
I mean, what's there to say when they're not talking, right? I mean, there's no...
And they're not talking.
Well, not because they're fighting. I think they just agreed last summer that he was going to play out the year and they'd see where the chips fall and... go at it. Now, I think it's a risky strategy. I've been consistent whenever I've talked about this. I wrote a column at the start of the year. I think they're absolutely nuts to not have him locked up because no matter what, and I know what's happened. I've been there. I've been at all those games.
Are you sure?
No, but my point is I don't think we have to go over the history, but this is the history I'll point you to. They just finished this season with 111 points. They finished last season with 115 points. Then we had all those weird COVID years, but they were playing at the similar type of pace. I mean, they are objectively one of the best teams in the game. He's consistently managed the salary cap and kept them competitive and found ways not to have them become the Penguins of this year, where they just didn't have enough around their stars to pull them through. And he's not even 40. Obviously, he's got some learning curves. We could point to some mistakes. One thing I like about him too, when he makes a mistake, he'll make a move to undo the mistake. He doesn't keep doubling down, right? They brought in Nick Ritchie a couple years.
Didn't work.
Peter Mrazek.
Traded him and got Lyubushkin as well as part of the deal. He didn't just offload him. He's creative. And MEGM, when you examine a 5-year record, which is what he has now in Toronto as the general manager, is going to have some misses in there. But there is nobody... I don't think that there is a more qualified person in the game that could come available that anyone would want.
Wow.
The one thing that scares me...
Maybe Doug Armstrong.
Is that...
Insane. If he were... I'm just saying.
If he were let go.
If Dubas was to leave, it wouldn't be for another GM job, I don't think. It would be for an upgrade, right? And the Penguins now have the opportunity to offer him president, king of the castle kind of job. And that's probably a little enticing if it's out there for him.
It could be. I mean, I think what... Look at it another way. One of the other things that I think Kyle's done really well is he has built out a massive behind the scenes, several departments, right? The Leafs lead the way in sports science, the way they treat injuries and recovery. A lot of the things they do for families and the like every new player that comes through the door, most recently it's been Ryan O'Reilly. I've seen talking about this. They've never seen anything like the Leafs operation. Now that costs a lot of money and there's not very many other places you could do that. And so it's not to say that Kyle wouldn't necessarily embrace if he were to have a job in the future where he's got to maybe do things a little differently. I mean, in Sault Ste. Marie, he had a pretty, bare budget operation by OHL standards. But
did Kyle work in the Sault?
I hadn't heard that.
Oh, man. Every time you see him, he'll remind you some way.
So
is it with a trade? Signing or
I meant more a comment.
Yeah.
Did you see the Greyhounds game or whatever? It's definitely top of mind for him that he's.
So,
but I'm from Cobourg and I bring that up at every available
opportunity.
So I am in no position to be throwing even indirect shade at him for that.
You two, you should take him out to Cobourg. Can you take Kyle to Cobourg, do a little interview with him or something like that?
He's probably got more important things to do. He's got 2 kids.
Okay.
He runs a
Organization.
pretty big operation.
Fair enough.
I'm
Never heard
guessing-
of it.
Fair enough.
I mean, maybe if I got him there on a chopper or something, so it's going to take 20 minutes of your time. But
Listen, we'd set it up, Kyle. If you're listening, we'll pay for the dinner too.
can you imagine we did like a show with Kyle Dubas in like a place
No.
like
I
Cobourg?
cannot
It would be
imagine.
amazing.
It would be amazing.
Ugh.
Amazing. Would love to do it.
When I was a kid, I'm dating myself, but John Olerud came to Cobourg and signed autographs.
Whoa.
And-
Wow. Johnny O.
I waited in line for like 3 hours to get his autograph. Like I remember, I can still picture where I was on the main street of Cobourg, like wrapped around behind the police station to go and get John Olerud's autograph.
Best swing in the game.
And then I finally get in the store and he's not wearing like the hard helmet. And I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, and you're
I was
used
a
to seeing
kid. I was like,
that.
oh yeah, because you only saw him in the hard helmet.
You don't know, Jesse. He was known to have the best swing in the game. He had the best, like the most perfect baseball swing. That was John Olerud's thing. Now, I want to.
Anyway, I'm just saying, if we could get Kyle Dubas to Cobourg, it would be.
It would be well. We'd have to. There would be a lot of people. We would have to accommodate a lot of people.
We can get them for our event.
Yeah,
Are we having an event?
we're having an event.
I'm speaking it into existence.
Is it in my dad's backyard?
It should be.
Oh, definitely.
Would he host that? It would be like Chris Stock.
He would.
Yeah.
My dad's pretty proud.
How
of
big
me.
is the backyard?
It's not that. It's big enough, but it's. You could probably have like 40 people back there.
Okay, that's not big enough.
No, but maybe
We could do like a
maybe
CJ
that's like
VIP party.
Yeah.
Yeah, where Julian does a keg stand. What do you think?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Penguins.
I'd hold him up for that.
Yeah.
Has anyone here ever seen Julian drunk?
No. No way.
don't-
Yeah, draft last year.
Yeah,
Oh,
Montreal
yeah.
in the draft. Yeah.
And he is fun.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
He is, yeah.
Because I feel like we share a pod, we spend a lot of time together. I've never really seen him drunk. Obviously, we're not in the same place too often, but
He gets more energy.
that's impossible.
I know.
Yeah, no. No, it's
crazy.
not.
We're recording an episode and it's like 6:30 his time in the morning, and he's covered a game the night before, and he's probably had like 4 hours sleep, and he wakes up and he's like, CJ!
Yeah.
Let's go. No coffee whatsoever.
yeah.
He's also got 40 shows to do that day too, right?
Oh my God.
And radio hits and all that. So okay, let me ask you this.
We're
If-
slightly off topic already.
Who cares? Who cares? We're all about that. Dubas.
First time?
If not Kyle Dubas.
First time, long time.
If not Kyle Dubas, then whom? And this is a question for everybody. I've got a name, but I want to know what your name is. Who do you think the Leafs go after if it's not Kyle, or if he decides he wants to go?
I'm not even entertaining that question because I just don't.
You stink.
Come on, CJ. Give us a name.
I just think they would be absolutely insane.
But what if he says, I don't want it?
This is the TSN coming out of you.
It's not.
Sure.
Pro. He's a pro.
It's
a pro
not.
now.
It's. I just live in.
I have to say that.
I live somewhat more in reality than you guys.
Ah, it's true.
Even
well,
if
that's
they
no
lose,
fun.
what if they lose in a bad way to Tampa?
I think if they lose in a bad way, you bring
players.
them back and you start making other changes. Like I'm not saying status quo for the whole organization.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget, like this is the most obvious thing, but it's staring us in the face. Austin Matthews has to be signing a contract on or about July 1st.
Yes.
And the Leafs, I think Game 7 of the playoffs might be May 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So like the Leafs theoretically, I'm just for the fun of this, their season could be ending May 1st. You've only then got 2 months and so if you're getting rid of a GM, somehow doing a process, hiring a GM, and then expecting that person to win, I think it's so risky. Unless I don't even want to say these words into a microphone because I'm going to get radioed.
Okay.
So,
Don't
okay.
worry about that.
But I'm just saying, like, unless you are comfortable maybe losing the face of the franchise, like, to me, it's all tied together.
Could Kyle Dubas's hypothetical departure jeopardize a Matthews extension?
Yes, because of the unknown. Like, who's
Right.
that person? Like, who are they bringing in? And do they have a relationship?
Chuck
with-
Fletcher. No, I'm kidding.
But let's face it, Austin is at a point where this is his UFA year. I mean, he's got one more season after this, but this is his decision where the alternate world is he can go play anywhere else that wants to sign him. Again, not till 2024, but this is the decision that impacts what happens in 2024. And so he's got to be comfortable that the Leafs are going to be good. Like, who's in charge? What's their vision? What's their plan? What's their track record? And, obviously Kyle Dubas has been in the Leafs organization since the day Austin Matthews was drafted. Like, they have a very good relationship. And I think that, Austin is very comfortable with the direction the team is taken. I think he's happy. I think he loves Toronto. Like, I think he wants to stay. But it's like any job. If you don't know who your boss is, like who your boss is important.
Well, along those lines, then, what about Shanny and Dubas? How are they doing?
I'm not sure entirely. Like, I don't know that there's necessarily anything bad there, but I think that there's been tension, right? Mm-hmm. Like, think about it. these losses cumulatively, they take stress on guys like Steve, but and others around the city. But there's no one that endures more stress than those that are devoting their entire lives 24/7, essentially trying to knock down the wall and make something happen here. And so I think it's only natural over time. And look, they had to have a discussion last summer whereby the news was delivered to Kyle Dubas, we're not giving you an extension. You know, you're going into a contract year. And so I don't want to portray it as awful, but I think that it's, you know, winning solves everything. Winning, like, seriously, even if, like, look, there'll still be disappointment if the Leafs lose in round 2. I don't think there's any way around that. But I think a sign of progress this spring, like if they get through a round, I think it just reaffirms a lot of the decisions they've made and things that have gone on. And I think, you know, I think a little tension in a professional sports organization it's inevitable between a coach, between a GM, between whomever, because it's high pressure, it's very public, and there's high stakes too.
So the number one question has been playoff performance and how's that going to be? And you just can't predict that in October, November, December. How has anyone in the organization changed their approach to how they evaluate the regular season and what success is?
What do you mean?
Like, everyone keeps asking me, hey, okay, what do you think is going to happen? Or how do you like this team? And basically every conversation I have ends with, but it doesn't matter until April, right? But I feel like if it's your job to evaluate how good or bad the Leafs are, you can't do that. You have to have, this game was good, this game was bad, this performance was good, this performance was bad. Have they changed the way they evaluate this team this year compared to last?
Well, their defensive metrics are much better.
Yeah.
If you look at it, that's the underlyings, that's the more traditional stats like shots against and goals against were improved. They weren't as dangerous offensively. They didn't, produce as much in that area. Obviously, some individuals like Austin Matthews had a personal fall off in his otherworldly production from last year. I think there's more of a commitment to playing a specific style of game designed to win in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I think you've seen it. Honestly,
I agree.
If you're looking objectively, like if you just dropped into this season and you didn't carry the knowledge of the previous seasons, like I think you'd be feeling really good about this series with Tampa.
The Leafs are such a unique team because every other team is like, oh yeah, Dallas has this strength or that weakness. With the Leafs, it's okay, if you were an alien from space and you just learned about hockey, like, oh my God, they're just impossible.
Dude,
I really need them to win, man.
So I was at the last game that they played where they won a playoff series in 2004. I was a university student and got tickets and was in the crowd. Wow. And now I'm sitting before you with gray in my beard. And like, look at all that's played out, including my entire professional career in that span. And they haven't got it done. Like it is actually crazy when you look at it.
Well, and this is what we want to get into next. But first, we did chat with Dave Bastel a little bit before this. We have a couple of Jesse bets, literally Jesse bets.
And your big one.
My big Connor McDavid one. It's right now. And we'll be back with CJ and preview next.
And we're going to teleport.
You can bet that with David Bastel. Brought to you by Sports Interaction. Get in the action and make a play. 19 plus. Please play responsibly.
Heartbroken.
Yeah?
Heartbroken.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
And not just because the Nashville Predators and Calgary Flames won't be making it, and the Jets will be. I'm heartbroken because I picked in February Connor McDavid to score between 65 and 70 goals. The Oilers won 5-2 last night. 5 different goals last night.
Yep.
I'm just gonna name them, guys. I'm gonna go through it because I feel like we need to talk about this. Okay. 5 different Edmonton Oilers goals against the San Jose mother effing Sharks.
And it's the Sharks.
Matthias Janmark, goal. Leon Draisaitl, goal. Evan Bouchard, goal. Matthias Janmark again, goal. And Evander Kane. Connor McDavid has 64 goals this year.
And he played all 82 games. Like, it wasn't like he sat out for anything and he missed some time. No, Connor McDavid was out there swinging.
Dave,
Yes,
I'm upset,
sir.
Dave.
Does
it sort of count?
I guess you're not getting any Bouchard jersey anytime soon.
No, I won't be.
eh?
First off, Bouchard on both of those goals, the last 2 nights that he's had them, could have passed to McDavid for a wide open look. And I just want to know why he wasn't looking out for my $2 bet.
That's so true. So true. You know what? That was a lot of fun. I think we're going to bring that back next year because you're speaking to the masses right now. I've had so many people come up to me and say, "Oh, I thought he'd only get 55 because he'd slow down," or "I thought he'd get 70 because the guy." Yeah, well, it's Steve's another exactly. "Oh, I thought he'd get 70 because this guy is monster." And I don't know. I think we'll do it with a couple players because I think you have to do a McDavid again. I think you have to do an Austin Matthews, of course, because you think that he's going to score more than 40 next year. And I think because of the way Ovechkin's creeping up on the Gretzky record, we got to do something with Ovechkin too. Yeah. It's not going to be as high. I don't think Ovechkin ever scores another 50 goals in a season, but he's going to produce something. So
don't challenge
is that
him,
number
Dave.
38? Is it 40? Is it
So here's the other one I want to say because no one's talking about Pasternak or Draisaitl.
Pasternak hit 60.
Yeah,
Crazy.
there's got to be some sort of McDavid versus Draisaitl versus Pasta versus Matthews versus whoever else got 50 plus goals. There was 5 of them. I'm pretty excited. But
you want to hear a quick story about Pasta? So I have a couple friends that have bet this. There were 2 different numbers out there for Pasternak's over under total. One was 60.5 goals. The other was 61.5 goals.
Oh.
And there were people on both sides of the fence. So you missed it by that much, literally. So,
That's tough.
Oh my God,
yeah.
that's like Adam.
It is.
So bad. Imagine being like Adam.
All right, now 2 more I want to talk about because these are both Jesse Blake bets.
Let's go.
William Nylander, the 50 for Willie. Did William Nylander score 50 plus goals this year? No.
Did
I
had Willie's goal totals at 42.5, and that did not hit. You guys were offered that one as well.
That's right.
I think I took that late February-ish, maybe early March, and he trailed off a little. But the other one that did hit,
Matthews and Willie in the 40-40 club.
That's it.
Last day of the season.
Listen,
there you go.
Dave, I won a whole $1.44 with that. So.
Oh, you took it too?
Oh yeah,
Nice.
So I might be buying myself a little latte.
I
After
think
this.
I got a no bet because I had Matthews, or no, I had Nylander not leading the team in goals, and he's tied for the lead in goals. So that's a no bet,
did
right?
they finished tied?
Yeah, they're 40.
Yeah,
and
they
40.
finished tied, 40 each.
Wow. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you got your money back. You got your $2 back, Steve.
I'll try not to spend it all in one place.
Dave, on Monday we've got a whole big thing for the playoffs, including something to do with Pick'em, but we'll talk about that then. For now, enjoy. I'm assuming you're going to the Jays game tonight if you're wearing the Blue Jays jersey.
I am.
Okay.
I handpick Jays games where the opposition pitcher is outstanding and what the Tampa Bay Rays have to offer may be the best in baseball. That's all I'm going to say. So I love watching matchups. This
Did
is
the
a pretty
Rays
good
finally
matchup.
lose tonight?
They're going for the all-time record.
They're tied with the
modern
Brewers?
day record for wins to start a season. They're 13-0 right now. They're trying to go for 14.
Dave
You can witness
likes-
history.
Dave likes
cool.
2-hour games.
He does.
Enjoy, Dave, and enjoy the playoff glow for this weekend, my friend.
Absolutely. Looking forward to Monday. Big news on Monday.
CJ, Steve keeps saying this to Jesse and I. He keeps saying if the Leafs go into this playoff series, if you're looking at it from like the outside perspective, there is no excuse not to win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is his big sentence. Do you agree?
And that's a little stronger than I'd put it. But there's no excuse for us not to say they're favored. I guess maybe that's like just a watered down version of what Steve's saying.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying, come on. In any of the playoff series, and I mean any of the 8 that are going to go on, either team could win. I think
Sure.
you can make a case for
But there's
either
no
team.
excuse, right? Because
Well-
you could make excuses. If Edmonton loses to Los Angeles, you go, well, LA has a really good team. They've come on strong lately, even though Edmonton's super hot. But maybe they're stronger on defense and goaltending. I don't know.
Well, what happens if 5 guys get knocked out with significant injuries?
Okay.
Isn't that it's
That's
not
an excusable
it's
thing.
not an
Right.
excuse that you want to make, but you also only have the players you have,
But the Leafs have healthy players.
evidently,
Ish.
today.
Right now.
Well, I mean, I don't even want to bring it up, but wasn't it 6 minutes into the series against Montreal when that
With
gruesome
Tavares.
Tavares injury?
Yeah.
You never know what's if you look at all the last playoffs, then you had Columbus with Muzzin. Muzzin again got knocked out in the Montreal series. There's always something that comes along.
Right.
So
But it could have come along for the other team too. Look at Tampa played last year's Stanley Cup final without Braden Point.
yes.
So, if you're a Lightning fan, you're going like, hey, we might have won 3 straight cups if if we had that guy.
And that's
in the lineup.
100-point Braden Point to everybody. I think he got 100 points, didn't he?
Braden 100 point.
Yeah, there you go.
Did he finish at 49 goals?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh man, Marner with the 99 points.
Oh,
That was real tough. I was
sucks.
rooting for that goal at the end of the game last night to count so they could go to OT and like maybe Austin sets up Mitch and he gets 300 or
Mitch would have had a 5-minute overtime shift.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
there's nothing else to play for,
Yeah,
right?
he would have stayed out there the whole time to
They'll
get
just be
100
like, stay
points.
out there.
He basically did at the end of regulation.
sorry. Braden Point got 95. I don't know where I got 100 from. It must have been somebody else.
Well, it's like Sheldon said, you just round up. When you get that close.
So what are you looking for going into this series? Because obviously, Leaf fans, we know the Lightning well. Maybe the hatred isn't the same as the Boston Bruins because those losses were.
Did you see the Luke Chen fight?
Yeah, and that's his former teammate. No,
That was odd. A little bit.
I think that's like it's on. I think there will be hate. Like I think look at as much as these two teams. It's not the 80s again.
Yeah.
I'm not predicting line brawls, but I do think that. I think the edginess, the after the whistle stuff will be a kind of talking point around the series because typically Tampa initiates all that stuff, and teams like Toronto get dragged in and take penalties, and I think it's going to be a bit of a hateful series, honestly.
Okay. So then, how does Toronto stack up? What are you looking for? What needs to happen?
Well, you need Ilya Samsonov to be what he's been all season long, and you don't know if you're going to get that because he's played eight previous postseason games in his career. He's won one of them. And, history isn't a predictor of these things. I mean, look, those are all different circumstances, different team, different time. I think he's got a lot of reason to be confident. He's played more this year and he's played well. I think that's going to be a huge thing for Toronto. I'm also looking at their power play, which is kind of a boring thing to say, but I think it's actually cost them a couple playoff series because they've consistently been one of the best regular season teams in the power play. And then something happens. It's like the clock strikes midnight right before the playoffs. And they can't convert. And reasonably, the Montreal series 2 years ago and last year, they're 1 goal away from advancing.
Yep.
In both game 6 and 7, that was how close the margin was, and they couldn't buy a power play goal. So I know that isn't like the sexy answer you're looking for. You want me to go like, I want to see Matthews versus Point, and whoever gets the most points wins a series. I don't think it's that simple, but I think how Samsonov holds up will be key, and then if the Leafs can get some confidence from the power play because. All the hate that's gone to the top players in the Leafs during some of these playoff series, that would have been solved if they just put in a few more power play goals. And that's what those guys do. I mean, I think they have the 3rd best power play this year in the regular season. It's consistently been top 5 during their years here. So reasonably, that's because it's hard to score at 5-on-5 in the playoffs. We know that. We're going to see it. They're going to play like a 2-1 game or 3-2 game in game 1. You watch. But where you get those goals from, they need to make good on the power play chances.
So, I mean, we have to go worst case scenario. Look at who we're talking about here. So, we're a couple weeks down the line. It's game 7. Samsonov makes an amazing save to force game 7, but he tears his groin doing it. Matt Murray has recovered from his injury. He's off IR. But they also have Joseph Woll, who's starting game 7.
I'd have to know the circumstances more, but I'd probably say Woll at this point.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Great answer. Great answer.
Are they? They're big believers, eh?
He's unreal.
Well, he's had a great year. I mean, there's not much not to believe in, if you know what I mean.
Well, I get that, but sometimes NHL organizations are really funny about rookies, right? They're really weird about young players. So, and I know the Leafs are not traditionally that, especially in the Dubas era, but it is goaltending, right?
Right. Well, and the one caveat I'll say, if Matt Murray's back on the ice this weekend when the Leafs practice, and so he's practicing fully for 2 weeks leading up to Game 7, he's probably in. But if it's a situation where he only returns midway through the series to practice, they're still sort of feeling it out. You can't just go. I mean, these pro athletes are amazing, but you can't go from doing nothing on your couch injured to playing in Game 7 of a playoff series. I think as much as there's a huge unknown with a young goaltender like Joseph Woll, how he'd handle that. He's played consistently well. Wherever he's played games this year, once he was healthy at the start of the year, he's been great. And he's been great in the NHL for the Leafs in a very limited sample. I'm not arguing you go to him over the other guys because you think he's better. But I think in a pinch, you're more comfortable with him than, say, Matt Murray, who's been consistently injured and maybe like hasn't worked out fully yet because he's dealing with the concussion.
You're $2 Steve, and you got to put down a bet.
Uh-oh.
And the bet is Matthew Knies, will he start game 1, yes or no? Where are you throwing your $2? Break the bank, CJ.
Here's a problem. There's gonna be 3 days of practices right after we record this, and it'll probably be obvious. So I'm purely guessing.
That's the point.
No, but I'm making that clear.
That's
though.
what $2 Steving it is. It's a complete guess.
Did you know that Matthew Knies still hasn't been in a practice with the Leafs?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
He joined the team and they played 3 games in 4 days. They didn't practice. Wednesday we were off, and then today's Friday they're off again.
That makes his pretty good play like that much more admirable.
Yeah.
I think he's in, honestly.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have said that a week ago. Like I was more thinking, okay, you have him in the bullpen, and he's sort of like because sometimes in a series, like the momentum and even like the feeling around a team, they'll put a guy like that in. It's almost like something to rally around for everyone else. Like if he's sort of like break the glass in case of maybe not emergency, but things aren't going well, we got to try something. I'm thinking of like when Andreas Johnston came and played in the must-win game against Columbus after his knee injury. Like when you do that, you're trying to like rally the team around something. He'd been a long member of the team and he was coming out from injury. We've seen other teams play rookies and like I just think anyway, I'm getting off track. But now seeing him play 3 games and seeing kind of the Leafs stretched themselves into like pretzel to make the cap work to even like get him on the ice.
I didn't notice. The high school students playing for them.
If there was one more regular season game left, you were going to be the backup goalie. So.
I was.
There you go.
I had all my equipment that I borrowed from David Ayres, who borrowed it from Antoine Bibeau.
That's amazing.
Yes. So he does something they don't have a lot of. He's big. He's one of the biggest by weight and height members of the team. He plays hard along the boards. He wins puck battles. We've seen now, like he can control the puck down low in the offensive zone. There's big question marks, right? Like if you dress him, if you're Sheldon Keefe, you're not putting him as much as you can control this in any dangerous situations. The problem is the playoffs, everything's dangerous. Like every moment could be the moment the whole game changes on a mistake or something like that. But I think they're going to play him. It just feels like it's going there. I mean, it's easier not to, right? Because your next question is going to be, well, who do they take out of the lineup?
And I don't know who that is.
You're right.
I don't know, like, is it Sam Lafferty?
No. Would it?
Zach Aston Reese?
They can't take Aston Reese out.
See, I totally agree.
They got him for the playoffs.
He's been really good, like in his role and what his job definition is. He's like, if you're doing a performance review on Zach Aston Reese, you're giving him marks across the board, right?
A+, yeah.
Like you're giving him a raise. It's not just like when I was at Wendy's and I got the 10-cent raise. You're giving him like the 20-cent raise. Like,
whoa! Oh, you're a manager.
No, I was not a manager.
I'm looking at the.
I was manager of how much free food I could give my buddies on a Friday night when they came to the drive-thru.
Nice.
I think it's safe enough distance where I can admit that.
It's a really good. Yeah, I think you'll be okay. What's
20 years?
obviously, I'm looking at game 82 here. So Connor Timmins is their bottom line right winger. I'm assuming he's not going to be there. But
at worst, Knies is 13 though. Like I think he's above Simmons.
Yeah,
definitely.
In terms of like if we were slotting it in order, I don't know who you take out. Like, to me, it might be Lafferty. I think he struggled a bit, but you just traded for the guy. He's got more experience. Like he's such a good skater.
I feel like the kiss of death for him being in the game 1 lineup came before he even played. When Keefe said he really liked the Aston Reese, Cam Lafferty 4th line.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just like, okay, well, coach likes what he likes, right?
And I feel like you're overthinking it by throwing Knies in there in his 4th career game. It feels like the easiest thing is, hey, it's game 1 of the playoffs. Let's just run with the lineup that we've had for a couple months now.
But they haven't had a lineup, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
Injuries.
Well, and also like it's literally been like throw a dart at the board. Who's playing with whom? Like they probably have to check twice each day because normally this becomes automatic. It's like each game it's been different.
Yeah,
that's true.
My sense is they want to go Bunting with Matthews and Marner.
Interesting. Okay, that's not what I thought at all.
That's the next thing I'm going to bring up anyway, so that's good.
I don't know what they're doing with line 2.
Okay,
like
Yarncroke. Oh,
I think Yarncroke will be on line 3 in that case. Like if he's not, it sounds weird. If he's not with Matthews and Marner, where they had a lot of success, I think he's down in line 3. Some version, of course, of Nylander, Tavares. Do you have O'Reilly there? Do you play Knies there if he plays and then maybe drop? Like, I don't. It's so funny because most teams, like, they have not rolled out the, like, I guess everyone's played with everyone at some point, but it's not like they played the last 3 games with static lines or the last 10 games with static lines. Like, really, ever since the trade deadline when they were carrying 28 defensemen and 4 forwards, like, it's been like a bit of a grab bag, right? I think Schen's in, though. I do think Schenn is in their top 6.
It seems that way.
To start the playoffs.
Seems that way. And that fight was a bit of,
out then.
I think.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been great to end the season.
No, he didn't handle the whole deadline well.
Because of Rasmus or?
Well, I don't know what it is. I'm not in his mind. I think that maybe he was having a good year, and then this disrupted things, right? All of a sudden, maybe he didn't know his place as much, and he's seeing all these veterans brought. I mean, they traded for 3 defensemen at the deadline. So if you're him, you're probably doing the math and going like, this isn't. So that guy, you know, he's played 400 games. This guy's played 900 games. Like, they didn't bring those guys in to eat popcorn with CJ. Like, those guys are there to play. And so I just think that got him out of a rhythm or whatever. And maybe there's the personal aspect too. Like, I don't know that, but
yeah, you
know, he and Sandin were close. Also Pierre Engvall. The Leafs had quite a Swedish contingent, and they put a missile through it.
They did.
I think they had 7 players.
They kept the Swedish Canadian and Willie though. So
yeah,
it's all good.
But I don't know if Jonas Siegel actually had a great story in The Athletic this year about how they had like a Swedish supper club. And they were like always going out to dinner on the road, and like there was the whole game about who chooses a restaurant and all this.
Oh, really?
Anyway,
okay.
I mean, like, it stands to reason you're comfortable speaking your native language with people.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know that it was like a clique that they needed to break up. I'm actually not presenting that as a fact.
It just seems like they might have been friends, which is, it's funny though, when you mention something like that, when you say, well, they had like 7 Swedish guys and they would go up to dinner or whatever, people instantly assume the worst. Well, it's really, they could just be a great support system. And, you're friends
Swedes
with people on your team.
are among the nicest people you could ever meet.
Yeah, generally.
I was in Sweden last summer. Like, everybody was so nice.
That's cool.
It's I like cars like stop because you might cross the road, like, to just in anticipation that you might want to, like, it's like, I'm just saying, very genteel, nice people, as much as you can generalize a whole country, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Liljegren also last year played 2 games and then was scratched for Hall.
That's
so
right.
They've kind of been through this, and they probably have other defensemen who
Coach likes his guy, right?
Yeah, or ahead of him in the pecking order.
Right. And come on, Luke Schenn fights and hits, and
you need that. You do need that.
He's also Luke Schenn, which is awesome.
Yeah.
By virtue of
have you
he's
considered
him.
the fact that he's Luke Schenn?
Yeah,
I have, and it's great.
The Leafs organization, when they brought him, they must have been like, this is kind of cool. That must not be lost on this front office about the history there, but also what he brings.
Yeah, I got to say, I thought it was kind of cool.
It is cool.
Like, literally the first draft I went to as a working reporter was 2008 in Ottawa.
Oh.
And Luke was drafted. Obviously, the Leafs traded up from 7 to 5 to get him. An often forgotten part about that draft, the Leafs traded Matt Sundin's rights to Montreal. And they were only going to get something back if Montreal signed him, but they didn't sign him.
Right.
It was like in advance of July 1st.
Can you imagine the Leafs had traded Matt Sundin to Montreal and signed him?
Well, he swore about it, remember? So there were rumors the Leafs were trying to trade him to Montreal, and into a microphone, because he didn't know the rumor, someone told him, oh yeah, they're trying to send you to Montreal, and he goes, oh fuck.
That's awesome. I didn't remember that.
That's awesome.
It caught everyone off guard. They were like, you can't say that, Mats.
Do you know what's cool? So Luke Schenn, little story, just because, I don't know, we're here.
Yeah, give it to us.
Someone might be listening that cares. So in 2020, we have that whole COVID thing, you might remember it. And I was inside the bubble, so to speak. I didn't live in like the hotels, but I literally went to like 80 playoff games, actually, because they were all played in one venue. And so I was covering that, of course. And Luke Schenn was with the Lightning. And people don't remember this, but he didn't play. I don't think he played at all in the first round, and maybe not even in the second round. So here's like Luke Schenn at that point, again, like barely hanging on to his NHL career. And here he is, same thing. His wife had just had a baby. He was like living behind a fence and not playing. But every day I would watch him, and he was doing the craziest bag skates you could ever want to do, like to keep himself in shape, just in case. I think there was an injury or some situation, or maybe they started going 11-7 and it opened up a spot for him. He starts playing for the Lightning in that playoffs. He fought once at least, but he started doing what he does. He wasn't, I don't believe, on the ice for a goal against, even though of course he plays like 8 or 9 minutes a game. Like we get what he is, but like he wins that cup, and like I'm like I'm a sucker for stories, and I'm a sucker for like sometimes the 23rd person on the roster. You know what I mean? Like, it's so cool.
That's the most dramatic usually, right? It's sort of...
Well, this guy, again, I know he's still playing, so it's great, but we didn't know at that moment. It could be like his last NHL season. It's a pandemic. He's like literally living behind a fence, not even getting to play the game, skating like himself into the ground just in case. And then he gets in and he gets some momentum. He plays a bunch of games. He wins a Stanley Cup. And then he goes back and wins another one the next year.
Yeah, it's cool.
And here he is to try to win a third one. And basically, remember when he was drafted? The Leafs hadn't had a high draft pick, right?
Yeah.
That was
Long
the year.
time.
That was the year before they drafted Kadri. And so it was sort of like he's here to deliver. Like, I remember when he was a rookie. Like, this is how freaking old I am. The Leafs had a defenseman named Mike Van Ryn at the time.
I remember him.
And I remember after one of the games, I think Luke fought in the game or something. He had like a big night. And Mike Van Ryn's like, he's the next he's a future captain of this organization. Like, of course we do what we do, but we were anointing him like he was the Lion King.
People
like,
were comparing him to Chris Pronger. They're like, he's going to be the next Chris Pronger.
Scott Stevens as well.
Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned it when they did draft him. The league was bigger and heavier, and the league moved away from that when he was in the midst of probably the prime of his career, right?
And this is what's wild is he's way older, and league scoring has gone up, and speed has gone up, and it feels like the NHL is going in the opposite direction of where Luke Schenn should be going, or the type of player that he's always been, and he's having this career renaissance. Like, it's really impressive.
This is the perseverance piece, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't give up. Like, he could have pulled the shoot. Like, who's for me to say? I assume he's kind of got enough money-ish.
Probably.
Like, he could easily move on to other things. Like, I do know he is a hockey nut. Like, I don't know what he's good. I haven't had a chance to ask him, but I would put money right now without ever even asking him. He will work in hockey beyond just playing. Like,
he's just one of those guys.
He has that feel, very astute, really pays attention to the league. Yeah. Anyway, like, it's kind of cool to see him back wearing the Leafs, and like, if they win a series with him and he does something, I don't know. I feel like this is what Jason Spezza was a little bit too, right? It's a bit of a totem for everybody.
Right. Joe Thornton was supposed to be, maybe.
That didn't. Yeah,
that didn't turn out pan out.
To be fair, that was like a season with no fans, and
yeah, it sucks. I want to.
Can I say that now? Like, am I allowed to admit that all really sucked?
Oh, it was horrible.
I think you were allowed to admit it at the time.
It was kind of hard. I was like, hey, I still have a job. Like, there's people with actual things going on.
It still sucks, though.
Yeah.
It still sucks. It sucks. No, anybody want to watch a hockey game with no fans? No.
If I ever go to another hockey game without fans, like an NHL game, I might just turn in my pass.
Really?
I've had enough. I went to, I literally, so that 2020 year, I went to Edmonton. They had the conference finals and the Stanley Cup final there. So there's a game every day. Like, one day it's Eastern final, one day it's Western final. Same time of day. I think it was 6 o'clock local starts or something like that. And I felt like I was like going to a factory. Like, it sounds weird, but like I felt like
churning out playoff content.
Well, but there was no joy. Like, when you walk up, like, the coolest part of my job, well, there's a couple, but like, objectively, one of the coolest parts of my job is walking up to a stadium where the Stanley Cup final is being played that night. Doesn't matter what city you're in. Like,
we've experienced that. That is very cool.
But talk about a buzz, man.
Oh yeah,
and
it's explosive.
And it's September in Edmonton, and it's gray, and the whole world is melting, and I'm just like trudging through the streets. There's nobody there. There's no buzz, no vibe. Like, nobody has any idea. It's just so weird. Mm-hmm. It's no one's fault either. Just like, it sucked.
Yeah.
And then the next year we come back and somehow, don't get me on goal.
Yeah, no. It's
somehow Ontario can't open for like 7 years while every other place is open.
Oh yeah.
Can I ask about Tampa and the other side of this?
Hey, can I ask one thing before you do that?
Sure.
I just want to ask about
both Adam and Jesse. Sorry.
Before we move to Tampa, I just want to talk about Michael Bunting for just a second. Because what I saw in Tampa was they were targeting him. Corey Perry, Pat Maroon, the refs. What is the Michael Bunting factor here? And then we'll move to Jesse's question on Tampa. And I'm sorry, Jesse. I just need to know, are the refs going to continue to call him this way? Where, there's 6 people in a scrum and he's the only one that gets the penalty. Are the Lightning going to use Michael Bunting as a way to get the Leafs to make mistakes this series?
They're going to try. I mean, that's evident. I mean,
did Kyle call the league? Did he talk like Sheldon said he would?
I don't know for sure, but I imagine he did. Like the league gets called every day, to be fair.
Yeah.
I told this story on my pod, but like just in case you weren't listening, like you go to the GM's meeting though, and it's so funny because like there's like the official agenda, but then you always like talk to someone privately. It's like, did you see this call in our game? And like everyone shows up with beef from like November 10th or something, and they're like, I want answers for this. Like like it's an emotional game and lots of stuff happens. But I think Michael Bunting is very like this is a fascinating.
This is a target though, CJ. This is obvious.
You want to talk about a story? This is a guy that had to earn it the hard way to even get to where he is in his career. He finally establishes himself in Toronto. He is an unrestricted free agent who the Leafs have, to this point, shown really no interest in negotiating with. And last year in the playoffs, he was injured. Like, he was injured right before and was never himself. So, like, when you talk about the confluence of events, like, he has to have a lot on his mind. Like, let's be honest. And I think really badly wants to have success here because he doesn't know if he's back. Like, he's living the dream, right? The Scarborough kid, man. And, he has to approach this like, it could be his last period in Toronto. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. They have the cap room, but they also had all year to try to negotiate with him and didn't get down to business. And so, and then on top of that, as I say, I think he's going to start on the top line again. And there's all this penalty thing, and he's like, he can't be taking bad penalties. Did he end up leading the league in minors taken? He was right up there.
He's up there. He's a high event guy. He drew a lot. He took a lot. This question is born from, I actually loved the idea of playing him lower in the lineup because it takes away Tampa's power to have an impact by egging him on. And now he's on the top line, and whenever he's off, you're down a top line winger.
Well, he just can't take penalties.
Oh, okay.
He's got.
Hey, Mike, have you ever thought of that?
No, but I'm saying like this is the challenge before him. This is it laid out, especially if he's on that line. Like he's got to be helping them produce offense. He's got to and not be a distraction. I think maybe you almost maybe sit him down if you're Sheldon Keefe. You're like, we don't need you to agitate to the like if you're normally set to 10, let's dial you back to a 4. Because he does lots of great things in the offensive zone. That's the other part of his game.
Yes.
But, like they have bottom 6 guys now. Like Nola Chari, he's not a big guy, but he hits hard.
Oh, he's awesome.
Love it. He barely stopped himself from crushing a couple guys last night. Because he was like, maybe I'll save it.
Which is good.
Thank goodness.
You don't need anything like we saw in the Minnesota game this week where guys are getting suspended.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as much as that was highly entertaining.
It was a fun game, but like kind of a shitty hit.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm not celebrating dirty play. Like the whole thing, like the Dean Evison reaction,
incredible.
Like I'm actually like
that is that's great. I hope they play each other somehow, some way.
Come over here and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So
I would never do that to anyone.
Do you think they'll be able to get? Do you think Corey Perry and Pat Maroon are going to be able to use their Jedi mind tricks, which work on everybody else?
Belmar too.
Get Michael Bunting to snap, pull that top line off the ice.
Corey Perry's still mad the Leafs didn't sign him, I think.
Yeah, because it was between him and Wayne, right?
I'm getting the years mixed up.
I'm pretty sure.
I know he wanted to come here.
Okay, not anymore. Jesse, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, that was in the COVID years.
Yes.
So Tampa Bay Lightning are.
You got a cute photo of your dog on your phone.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Waffles. She's a gorgeous little doggy there. So
sorry, I got momentarily distracted. Send me your dog memes. I just love dogs.
Oh, I love my dog more.
At Reporter Chris.
Tampa Bay Lightning end the season 1-4 last 5 games, I believe. I don't have hockey reference in front of me, so I'm trying to do this from my head. 3-8 in their last 11, and since February 1st, they're 14, 15, and 5. So under 500 in Gary's NHL. Are they that team, or game 1, do you see them rise to some other level that they weren't the last 3 months of the regular season?
I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, I'm putting myself out there a bit, but it's really hard to finish the season as uninspired as they were. You saw John Cooper pushing a lot of buttons with them, whether it was sitting the guys down or some of his comments in the media. And I just didn't see a lot of response there. I'm not saying they've given up on the coach. Like, it's entirely possible they're just too wounded. I mean, they played a ton of hockey. But I'm probably going to get bit by saying that because the one thing that they have is they have so many individuals that are just proven like gamers. Like guys who've consistently shown up and got the job done, whether it's Vasilevsky, you know, the 1 year he had shutouts in all the closing games, you know, like basically when there's a chance for them to win it, he gets it done. I mean, Braden Point is just an animal. He's like my height, which is not tall. I don't know what he's listed as, but he's not a big guy by professional athlete standards. And he just is fearless. Like he is through the middle of the ice all the time, usually ripping your heart out if you're on the other team. And scoring goals like in overtime in Game 6 last year, you might remember. You know, and then we're not even getting to Stamkos, Hedman. Like it's such Kucherov, who had another monster season that no one talked about or noticed somehow. So I just look at those individuals. Like they have so many guys that could win games when they don't have their best as a team, but something feels off, right?
Yeah, as a team, they're not winning. They have all the individuals and obviously three straight Stanley Cups, but as a team, they haven't been winning on the ice in months.
And the way they won, like last year, this might sound like a hot take. Last year, I was most impressed by Tampa of all their playoff runs, and they didn't win the cup.
Yeah.
But like Stamkos was awesome in last year's playoffs. Like he's like blocking shots and like it's, you know, and getting a bit into like rock'em sock'em kind of, but like he was like literally and
well, tell us what you saw. You were there, right?
No, but he was like literally and figuratively like the leader, and he scored lots of big goals. And like seriously, I had a Conn Smythe vote last year. Like if they had won the cup, like I think he would have been my number one. I mean, that's a hypothetical because maybe someone else scored 7 goals in the 2 other games they won, and it would be different. But like.
I just want to say something. Steve and I are having heart palpitations over here based on what Jesse is saying.
I mean, because it's the Leafs who...
There you go. End the sentence there.
Yeah, exactly. No, because they've been fantastic. But you have to ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears because of history. And then there's Tampa, who's been crap. And you have to ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears because they're historically great. So I feel like analyzing the regular season is a waste of time.
Do you really think so?
It might be, but like, what else are we to do? Like, this is
I know.
Right,
yeah.
Like, what is
I also think the Leafs are a lot
What is the meaning of life, Steve? Like, we just spent 6 months.
At the dawn of time, first there
But
were
seriously,
protons
we just spent
and neutrons.
6 months watching this, fixating
know.
on it, you know, going to games, doing all of the content we all do. Like,
we just recorded a season playoff preview for the Leafs, and all the other
did anybody pick the Leafs?
we all did. I believe we all did.
We all did. Yeah, so
But
I don't know why you guys
think-
are so worried.
I think
And how many games?
I always pick the Leafs. I'm always going to pick the Leafs.
So you're 0-6.
I am. It's been a rough couple decades.
I said 6. I said 6.
I had 6 games.
I think I might have said.
Adam
this.
said
I think
7
had
because he's a
7.
piece
I
of
said
shit.
7 because I want Steve's heart attack.
So you both have them going into Amalie Arena on a Saturday night,
and winning.
facing a game 6 and winning.
Yeah, I see them going up like 3-1 in the series. Like I see them getting
And then bouncing it away in game 5.
yeah, obviously.
Who invited CJ?
Well, it's funny. Like, no one make any life plans based on this, but because the schedule isn't out. But I heard that there's going to be 2 off days between games 4 and 5, so they would come home with 2 off days. No. And if they're up, imagine they're up 3-1, and just like, and it's going to be spring outside, and like whatever they call that thing outside the arena, there'll be a million people out there. And
Oh my God, lose game 4 on purpose.
Okay. So
how are you going to handle these next 2 weeks?
Horribly. Terribly. Absolutely terribly. This is... okay, truthfully...
Like, do you enjoy it, or is it like excruciating?
No, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's funny. Before the show, you're like, so you like watch every game?
Well, I meant like if you're doing an LFR on game 81 or 80 or 82, like do you actually watch the whole game? Do you watch it in 10 minutes, like a snippet? Or?
Yeah, like these last 2, I went into both like, what's the point? And then the Lightning game ended up actually being pretty exciting. But the Rangers game, there were 12 shots each between the Leafs and Rangers heading into the third period. They did not give a shit. And it wasn't until the third period where they were like, well, we're in Madison Square Garden. I mean, we might as well try to win.
I watched it at a bar, so I didn't really...
I yearn to watch a hockey game at a bar.
It wasn't.
I'm not able to do it anymore.
I gotta say, it was a bar that was more into the Jays game than the Leafs game. That's how little stakes were on the Leafs game.
Wow.
Yeah,
as,
no, but
as
like-
it should be.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, no, like game 82,
No.
and that Jays game was really good. It was
It
a
was,
walk-off
it was.
victory, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I don't blame any fans for that.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
Also,
Okay.
Steve, you had a very funny line about if Willie wasn't going for goal number 40, the shots might have been like 5 each. Because
they
Willie
wouldn't
just
have-
kept firing the puck.
Neither team would have hit 20 shots. No, neither team would have hit 20 shots. But
Do you think Connor Timmins has a future as a forward?
I would love to see him pull a what would that be?
Brent
a
Burns?
reverse Ian White. That's how Ian White got into the Leafs lineup with Paul Maurice.
Oh man,
I don't know why I remember that. I probably because I'm ill and care deeply about this team. And
was Paul Maurice like the coach like 2007?
Yes.
Like you just like
6-7.
You're just cold referencing things from 15 years ago.
From about the Leafs too.
Yeah, but like not about like a big playoff moment. You're
No.
like you're referencing minutia from 15 years ago.
so to
Let me tell you about the time Daryl Boyce got in the lineup.
and ripped his nose off.
I know, that was kind of notable.
It was noticeable, you see, because no, here, let me answer this in the longest way possible. So Michael Misa, who's going to go first overall in like what, 2 years, something like that. He was born the month I signed up for YouTube. And I have not made a second round Leaf video. That is how long I've been yearning for this thing. And God bless everyone who's watched all the regular season LFRs, but there has been an air of all of this feels like a tiny bit, even 5% of a waste of time because we're all just waiting for April. And now it's here, and it's like 4 to 7 Super Bowls until they hopefully win a series, and then it's 4 to 7 Super Bowls again.
It could be 4 to 28 Super Bowls.
Exactly, right?
Imagine if the Leafs played 28 games in the next 2 months.
Oh, yippee! Yippee! Yeah, and my son is like none of his clothes fit anymore. Just like there are games in the season where there are games in the season where like on the live streams and in the LFR, I feel the audience in the room with me, and it provides a tremendous amount of pressure.
Right.
You feel 6 digits, like just like
Have you ever in your mind mapped out what a Leafs win the Cup LFR would look like?
all the time. I
Like-
still haven't come up with an answer.
Do you think that it'll just be like spur of the moment, it'll hit you if that happened? Or
I live stream myself walking from Ajax to Maple Leaf Square, celebrating and drinking all the beers.
how many kilometers is that?
Like 40,
lot.
50.
Yeah, you wouldn't make it.
Shit.
CJ could do it in a jog.
Yeah. CJ did that today. Like
20K today.
He did 20K today. That's crazy.
That still took almost 2 hours. I'm just trying to think like
It'd be like an
like-
8-hour walk.
like, you don't really want to do that.
I don't know what I would. This was an easier conversation to have with my wife before we had a son. But I like what I've
Before
always
you had responsibility.
I've always told her to wait 72 hours before calling the police. I'm gonna leave. You're not gonna hear from me. Just wait 72 hours. Hour 73 comes. Maybe be like, hey, haven't seen him.
Do you know what my most fond hockey memory celebrating was? Because like obviously,
Give it to me.
but you can't do it in this day and age. Like doing my job, right? It just would never come about. But when Canada won in 2002,
That was fucking awesome.
the Canadian men, and it was a Sunday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. And we had
Yes,
like
it was.
30 people in my parents' living room, which was 28 over capacity. And they won. And I just remember like ripping around Cobourg. Like we had like Canadian flags. Like it was awesome.
I was doing the exact same thing. I was riding my bike up Lawrence in Scarborough and with the Canadian flag waving off the back of my bike, and cars were honking at me. It was awesome.
Joe Sakic.
Gio!
What a
First
call.
time. And the first time and the best time, Joe was ever 2 syllables. And fuck, what a game.
Sakic.
Steve, to answer your question for you, you better be in the building if they win the Stanley Cup. Like, what
Yeah,
a
come on.
shame
What do you
it
work
would
for
be-
Sportsnet for?
What a shame it would be if you weren't in and around Scotiabank.
Are you going to live stream yourself walking from the press box to Maple Leaf Square? Because that would be considerably less interesting.
I mean, yes, and I would get dirty looks from people, and I'd be like, fuck you, they won the cup.
Yeah.
You can't just tell people, fuck you, in Scotiabank Arena, we'll never let you in again. Fuck you, I don't need to go to another game. They won the cup. All I ask Leo's birthday is June 22nd. I need Carlton the Bear to bring the Stanley Cup to his birthday party. That's all I need in the world. Why are you laughing, Maddie? Why are you laughing? I need Carlton the Bear to bring my son the Stanley Cup.
She knows you too well.
And we'll get him baptized again.
I like that.
I'm pretty sure that the last possible day of the Cup final is June 19th.
Oh, wow. That's later than usual.
We're still recovering a little bit.
Just a hair.
No,
Yeah,
but because even the draft, I think, is June 28th and 29th, and then free agency is July 1st. Like,
It's
normally
like-
there's 5
It's going to be
days.
tight.
Yeah.
It's going to be tight.
It's a
Oh my
real
God,
tight
it's going to
window.
be chaos.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
No, we'll be
and
flying
also
home from Nashville.
What's that?
We'll be flying home from Nashville on the 30th, the morning of the 30th, and then turn around and be in here doing.
And we're doing a free agency special
stuff. Yeah.
So it's nuts. Hey, I have a question for the room before we kind of wrap here, because this is like an abbreviated CJ show. We'll obviously have CJ on again.
Is this even a show? I don't even.
It's like a snippet.
At a
This is
certain
our full
point-
show because we've got our previews coming out this weekend. So we're, the rest of the content is still coming. Don't worry. I want to ask the room, what is you have to remember that all these seats have already sold out, so it's a resale. What's the lowest priced Leafs ticket for this weekend? The answer might surprise you, said BuzzFeed Adam.
$150.
Okay. Steven?
$250.
Jesse?
$1.
$200.
Steve is the closest without going over. $277.
Whoa.
Okay.
Standing room?
Those are actual seats. Believe it or not.
Because
Yeah.
the Raptors sold standing room tickets for.
Oh, sorry. It is standing room obstructed
Okay.
view.
Yeah.
Holy
man.
shit.
That's to watch half of the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Raptors sold those tickets to the obstructed standing room. They got down to like $80.
As someone who had obstructed view seats for a playoff game, it's fucking awful.
Okay,
It's
so
so
You might
much.
as well not be there.
yeah.
You can't see. The Leafs had a 5-on-3
What if it happens
penalty
on
kill.
your rink, your side of the rink? Yeah.
Leafs had a 5-on-3 penalty kill against the Caps in Game 3, and I couldn't see the net. So I was just, every time the Caps shot it, I had a heart attack.
For a
I didn't
single
know.
seat, that non-obstructed view, $325 is the lowest price.
not bad.
That's $270 plus Ticketmaster's $55 fee. Now,
How do they have a $55 fee?
well, just wait till we go to the biggest.
Because they fucking suck.
Yeah, that lawsuit. I hope they lose.
Okay, so here's what we got now. Best seats in the house. Most expensive seat. Section 109, which is just off of center, across from the benches. So you're not on the bench side, you're non-bench side, your penalty box side. And you get one ticket, row 1. You're along the glass. How much money for
But are you
game-
just staring at like the back of the penalty box?
No. You're beside the, because 108 is where the penalty box is.
Right.
109 is to the left, so you actually do get the better view.
Says a guy who knows because he's been to the lower bowl.
That's where my seats are.
Bougie lower bowl.
Actually, Adam's ticket that he's reselling.
Okay, so
He's trying to get people to buy it.
not
That's the
true.
whole point of the segment.
what does Adam's seat in section 109? By the way, if I had season seats, it would not be in section 109. It'd be section 105 or section 112 or one. You got to be in the corners and up high. How much money are these seats?
$1,967.
Oh, I like that. Good answer.
$1,500.
$1,500. Jesse.
$2K.
So Jesse is closest, but he went over. $1,995.
Holy shit!
But your Ticketmaster fees are $408 for one seat.
Ticketmaster realizes they just transfer you something to your phone. Like it's free
Yep.
and instant, and it doesn't.
That's
what the
it's
hell?
not those. It's $408. It's not instant and free.
To send the QR code?
Yeah.
Like literally, why don't they just come to your house with a gun? Like that's equivalent. That is the equivalent. That's insane.
That is a wild price, but so you're paying, for anybody wondering, $2,403.98 for that seat if you choose to buy it.
Wow.
That's verified resale. That is not the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The slogan should just be a gun cocking.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow.
What you gonna do?
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about the time I snuck into a Maple Leafs playoff game?
How did you sneak into a Maple Leafs playoff game?
I certainly didn't pay the Ticketmaster fee.
What did you do?
So I was a bit of a nerd.
Hello, I'm James Myrtle, and you just did a really good impression.
I don't know if you ever heard of a thing in high school called School Reach or Reach for the Top.
No.
Heard of it.
It was like trivia. I was on a trivia team kind of thing. And we reached the provincial finals, which were in Toronto. And so we were staying at the U of T, and my dad actually, I remember him like, it's like one of these moments with dads. He like peels off like $100 and he's like, go get a ticket to the game.
$100.
Wow.
Well, I mean, this is in 1990. I think it's 99 or 2000.
Even then.
And so I go down and like, I'm just so happy to be in Toronto. I'm like, hey,
that's cool.
And like, I'm, all the other kids like actually are like hanging out at the University of Toronto.
And to be clear, is this Gardens or Air Canada? It would be Air Canada Center. Yeah.
And there's all these kids that are also in the School Reach thing. They're like playing chess and doing like nerdy things, like But I like peel off and I go, this is my big break, and I go down to Air Canada Center and I'm talking to scalpers. And I'm probably scared out of my pants, and $100 ain't getting it done. And I didn't have, I was working at Wendy's. I didn't have like a lot of powder beyond that too. And so like I was like hanging around outside, and I noticed there used to be this door. It's actually right what is now the media entrance, but at the time it was not a media entrance, in Maple Leaf Square, and the first intermission they're letting people out to smoke.
Oh wow.
And so literally I just like walked towards the door and just like probably tried to act like I knew what I was doing, and then like once I got in, I just ran, and nobody chased me, and I got into two periods of a Leafs playoff game for free.
Did they win?
Wow.
They won.
Oh,
That's cool.
CJ. Who was it
That's
against?
something that can't happen anymore.
I think
letting
it was,
out for smoking.
Holy, yeah, they don't do that.
I think it was Pittsburgh, I want to say.
I was at that series as well. Sylvain Cote scored a goal, 4-1.
Honestly, I came back. I was like 6'6" walking back to Res. Like I got into the game, and I still got my dad's $100.
Sick.
Wow.
That's such a key factor of the story. You still had the $100. Did you give it back?
No chance. No chance. My dad,
Wow.
I'm sure I didn't come right home because I was still a teenager, right? I didn't probably come right home to my dad and be like, hey, I snuck in.
Oh, candy was a nickel.
I'm just saying. But my point is like now my dad would like to hear that story because I didn't get arrested. But at the time, he wouldn't be like, yeah, great job sneaking in, son. Like he probably would have been angry with me. So I had to keep this inside and just save it for the Steve Dangle podcast.
Wow. You know what?
Bless you.
I don't think we have anything else to add. Why don't we leave the story?
I don't think I've even told anyone who works for the Leafs that story. Like I don't like. Would they be mad in retro or?
They're gonna send you an invoice.
But I'm not trying. Here's the thing.
And a cop.
I'm not trying to encourage anyone to try to do the same now. Like
doesn't exist anymore. You can't.
Good fucking luck trying to do it now.
Yeah.
But seriously, I was a
That's
desperate
pre
kid.
9/11. People were still allowed to smoke it during the intermission. That never happens anymore.
And honestly, I was just sitting out there, like I wanted so badly to go, and I stood out, and because you could watch it on the screen, so I was like watching it outside, and then I saw my chance, and I just went for it.
You gotta act like you belong.
I don't know. I was a kid. Like I
did it though. You did it.
Seriously. Like I wish I had a picture of me from that day. Like I probably was so conspicuously out of place. Like I didn't even know my way around Toronto. Like I don't even know how I got there.
They definitely thought you were like one of the Black Aces. That's Jeff Farkas.
There's Lonnie Bohannes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah, 90s AHL legend Lonnie Bohannes. Love that. All right, well, listen.
Last question.
Go,
we
hit
didn't
us.
ask CJ, who's your Stanley Cup pick?
Ooh.
And who are you taking in the Leafs Lightning?
I'm gonna take the
Same
Leafs
Leafs, okay.
in 6 games.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Because I have no faith that if it gets to a 7th, that
No, there's no way.
we've all been down that road a few times. And I'm picking the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup.
It's not a bad pick.
Versus who?
I mean, I'd love it to be the Leafs just because I want to see an all-Canadian final. It's one of the last remaining things on my professional bucket list is to cover an all-Canadian Stanley Cup final. So because I know the audience here, and I haven't made a pick anywhere else. I actually have picked Edmonton to win the Cup elsewhere, but I haven't picked their opponent. I'm going to pick the Boston Bruins.
Oh. Well played. That means if CJ's right, the Leafs would then have to lose to Boston again in the second round. Oh!
I've been to every Leafs playoff game since 2013.
Damn it, CJ. Damn it, CJ!
The Steve Dangle Podcast.
Powered by Sports Interaction. Want to bet?
Follow the guys on Twitter Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.